And we are live. How's it going, everybody? It's Wardy here, and we're back at it with our latest New York Metropolitan post-game show as the boys came out and comfortably went and won their third straight game against the St. Louis Cardinals by a final score of 3-0. Fitting that 3 is on the topic in this one, and we already got a massive dono that I'm going to get into here in a second from my man Billy Dottie. Billy right away says Kodai Senga is our de facto ace. Soto is heating up. Pete is playing at an MVP level. Lindor is setting the table as our leader and consistent high-level pitching to boot. This is a team developing habits to be a major threat in the playoffs. LFGM indeed, baby. Thank you so much for that donation, folks. We're going to break down the ball game, inning by inning, everything that transpired in this amazing victory for the Mets here, winning their third straight here to kickstart this homestand. The winning ways continue at home, and that's a very important thing, everybody. So I'm amped up. I am pumped up to get into this one as we're going to break down more on the polar bear and his home run heroics yet again. Juan Soto being productive, which is always a great sign. Kodai Senga working that ghost Furco so well. Francisco Lindor's defense having us all jaw drops, saving runs per usual. We got Mr. Mark Vientos with a great play. Then he exits the game. We'll get into Vientos' injury here shortly, but good news, everybody. It's nothing serious. He's going to be just fine. We also have Francisco Alvarez news that we're going to get into in this one, folks, as this is going to be more like our post-game shows and Big Mets update segments combined together, because I'm not dropping one in the AM. We have a 1:40 game tomorrow. It's Easter. I'm not going out my way to drop one before that game starts. So we're going to talk about a lot of Mets land beyond just the game itself and all these key takeaways. But first and foremost, everybody, spam those W's in the live chat. That's what your guy Wardy wants to see. Let's see in the comments down below from each and every one of you as well. It's greatly appreciated, everybody. Thank you so much for doing exactly that. Dave with a $5 holla. How you doing, baby? Excellent pitching. The polar bear hits one to Rockaway. You said it, baby. Thank you so much for the donation, as always. Let me see those W's spam in the chat right here, right now, everybody. Shout out to our amazing sponsor and friends at BetUS TV that has you covered with all the latest odds, picks, and lines. As you guys can see, Juan Soto plus 1,000, and the polar bear has been off to a much hotter start at plus 2,000 on the MVP odds. If you guys want to sprinkle some bias bets here, I implore you to do that. Again, do whatever you want. You guys, of course, make sure you do those things responsibly. But if I'm going to be biased here, I love these plays, especially the polar bear there with those current odds. So check out BetUS TV once more, everybody, for all those picks, and we appreciate them greatly. Now, folks, you guys know the drill by now. We got to let it rip with the one, the only, the official WardyNYM post-game jingle, baby. Let's go! Ha ha! Shout out to my guys Greg and Jordan, as always, with the official WardyNYM post-game jingle. Shout out to my Knicks today as well. I know they're playing as we speak against the Pistons. I don't even know what's happening there because I've been locked in on my Mets, but I'm going to be watching the remainder of the game as soon as we're done here. If you're a Nets fan, I apologize. Not trying to offend anybody, but playoff basketball is here, and I'm very excited as a Knicks fan. But guys, let's get into this one, and let's start off with a really fun stat to kickstart the day. Edwin Diaz shut the door down brilliantly after first working the count there to Sages or so, 3-0. Then he goes back all the way to punch him out. Edwin Diaz now has the most saves in, yes, Citi Field history with, yes, you heard it correctly, 69. Nice. If you know, you know, everybody. But as we see here, the Mets team ERA has now fallen to 2.27, the best in Major League Baseball. This is after the Mets get over 5 shutty from Kodai Senga. They get the bullpen to work. Reed Garrett's a bulldog. AJ Minter walks 3 and doesn't allow a run. How? I don't know, but it works. Kodai Senga did his job. Edwin Diaz did his job. And this Mets lineup 1 through 9 with Brett Beatty on the bench and Luis Angel Acuna in at second base, everybody. I'm obsessed with the fact that every single time the kids are out there right now, they're producing for the most part. Beatty came in the game halfway through for Vientos as he went down with injury. But as Carlos Mendoza said post-game today, great news on the Vientos front. He is just day-to-day there with groin discomfort. I'm not sure if it happened from him making the best catch that we've ever seen at the hot corner where he was really pumped up about it. I'm not exactly sure where it happened, but he did exit the game shortly after that, so I'll let you guys connect the dots. All I care about is Mark making sure he's avoiding a serious injury, and that's the most important thing out of that. So good news on that front. Nothing too concerning, everybody. And Francisco Alvarez, folks, he's catching as we speak there, that we saw for the Rumble Ponies and Reading, which is not far from me right now, against there, that being the Fighting Phils. He's going to DH tomorrow, and then he's going to be cleared. It is official. Francisco Alvarez is going to return to this Mets team as soon as Monday to begin that series against the Philadelphia Phillies. So not only do we have a really exciting ball game to break down for each and every one of you, but we have some awesome updates to share. And before we wrap up the show, I'm going to give you guys our latest prospect report on everything that's transpired in the minor leagues to this point. Some of the games won't be done yet by the time we get to that point, but that's okay. I just want to have the discussion because I know my guy Ryan Clifford and what we saw there, Nick Morabito, went back-to-back. Shout out to my editor, Jacob, who's actually at the game right now, and he texted me when they went back-to-back. I'm like, oh, I'm envious, but at the same time, I'm happy to be watching the Mets game too, so I'm not complaining, everybody. Let's lock in. Let's do this. Anthony, how you doing, baby? Happy to have you in here. Zelda, Jester, Snags, D-Mac, Eric, Chad, Dave, everybody going up the list here. Let's see. We got my man D-Mac. How you doing? We got Eddie C. All my members, come one, come all. If you guys are a live or a reoccurring subscriber, thank you guys so much for being here. We appreciate you greatly. Help us get a 33K subs for our next short-term goal, because once we hit 33K, folks, we're giving away another jersey. We've already given away 2 jerseys on the season so far, the year rather. A Juan Soto jersey, a Juan Soto jersey again, but in a different color, and then a Juan Soto shirt jersey, all for hitting new milestones on the platform. Every 1,000 subscriber milestone we hit, meaning once we get 33K, we're giving one away to one lucky subscriber. So get in on it, everybody, and I cannot wait to be giving away a new jersey for each and every one of you. Anthony with the $10 holla. Thank you, Anthony. Anthony states the following: Happy Easter, brother. May you and your family, including baby Shay, have a blessed holiday. Same to you and yours. I really appreciate that. What a series win by our boys. LGM, hopefully Soto starts to break out. He is. Soto had a fine day today. I understand he didn't lift the baseball too much, but Soto hit him exactly where they ain't, that we saw in the right center gap. So great job by Juan Soto today. Get on base multiple times, drive in runs. Luis Angel Acuna, I'm obsessed with. This kid continues to make a difference every single time out there. Brett Beatty didn't do too much outside of making a great quick turn there as soon as he came in defensively at third base for Mark Vientos in this matchup. There are a lot of positive takeaways to get into in this one, everybody, and I don't want to waste any time. Tim, how you doing? D, how you doing? Always, how you doing? JR, great member, how you doing? Going up the list. Giovanni, James Phillips with the $2 holla. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Let's see. Mike Norton, what did he say, baby? A great win. MVP indeed. Who would have said, who would have thought that as we would reach towards the end of April in 2025, that Pete Alonso would be the Mets' leading MVP candidate between himself, Juan Soto, and Francisco Lindor? I guess we could have thought it to a degree if we fully expected a continuation of last year's postseason, but my God, I did not think that Pete was going to be batting what is almost 270 still, with over 1,000 OPS. We're going to talk a lot about the polar bear here shortly, everybody. So without further ado, come one, come all, let's break down this ball game, innings 1 through 9. Because as we see, everybody, and actually, final thing I'll say, and then we'll continue on with this. Shout out to our awesome friends and our awesome, amazing sponsor here at SeatGeek. Make sure to check out SeatGeek by clicking the link down below in the description, everybody, and using our promo code that is WARDY10. Yes, you heard that correctly. Use our promo code WARDY10 as SeatGeek has you covered, everybody, for all of your ticketing needs. Because not only do they have thousands of events to actively choose from and millions of people in total downloads for their tickets, making them the #1 rated ticketing app and the official ticketing app there of Major League Baseball, but folks, they have been what I've been using for literally my entire life on the ticketing scene. And as we see with this Phillies series beginning this Monday, as I'm looking for 2 tickets, everybody, I'm seeing some good deals here. And as you guys can see, it might be hard there, and that's okay. There are some tickets for just $19 with a 7 green grade. What that means is, knowing that it's green is that it's a good rate. You should actually be getting a good bang for your buck. And what we see there, $19, that's cheap, baby. That's for the Philly game starting this Monday. I might have to splurge if I attend that game or attend any of the games next week, so be on the lookout, folks. But head over to SeatGeek with our promo code WARDY10, link down below in the description. That way you guys get 10% off your next ticketing purchase for Mets tickets or whatever you want on the ticketing space. SeatGeek has you covered. But without further ado, now let's talk about this ball game, everybody. Let's get into it. And thank you guys kindly for smashing that like and subscribe on as you chime into this one. It starts in the first as Kodai Senga would work himself a nice and clean 1-2-3 inning. He gets a fly out on Lars Nootbaar, a line out there to Juan Soto from Wilson Contreras, and a ground out there from Brendan Donovan to Luis Angel Acuna, who makes a quick flip to Alonso, and that's an easy 1-2-3. That leads us then to the bottom of the first, and then the bottom of the first, the Mets, who were facing the southpaw today, they're towing the rubber for the Cardinals, that being in Liberatore. He looked really, really good, and I gotta give credit where credit's due. This lefty came out and carved up the Mets a little bit early on, but thankfully, Kodai Senga was just as good, or at least good enough to make sure that he was going toe-to-toe here with Liberatore in this one. And as we saw, everybody, I apologize if I'm saying his name wrong either. I tend to butcher things, per usual. In the bottom of the first, the Mets went down in order 1-2-3 between Lindor striking out, Soto with a soft ground out, because if Soto doesn't have a soft ground out for his first out of the day, is he really wants Soto? That's what it feels like right now as a Mets fan. And Pete Alonso pops out, sadly, to do it there in the infield. In the top of the second, we would see with one out, Alec Burleson gets on with a walk. Then we see Thomas, and I'm going to butcher the last name. Is it Sagis? Something along those lines. He rips his second double of the season. He's been a pest. Him and Brendan Donovan were a true pain in the neck throughout the first 3 games in this series. He would rip a double, which would have runners at second and third with less than 2 outs. And what happens next? Nolan Gorman strikes out on the ghost fork. Brilliant work that we saw. I think that was that swing I just showed you guys in the highlights next to me. And then we saw Pozo there line out to Jose Azcar, as Jose Azcar got the start from the Mets today in center field over Tyrone Taylor. And the reason for that being is, 1, the Mets want to give Tyrone some days off, 1, and 2, Azcar is a very good defensively minded center fielder that also has plenty of speed on the bags. Think of a worse version of Jose Siri, but also is very stable on the defensive end and had himself a base knock before this game was all said and done. So I love this see that from Jose, not complaining whatsoever. As we then got, folks, to the bottom of the second with 2 outs after Mark Vientos and Marte would be out via ground out and a line out, Brandon Nimmo would have his one and only hit of the day, as he would line one that we saw there to Brendan Donovan in left field for an opposite field single, and Luis Torrens would promptly strike out thereafter, leading us to the top of the third. And in the top of the third, we would see the Cardinals go down in order, as we would see Lars Nootbaar strike out there for the second out, and Contreras would fly out for a nice 1-2-3 inning of work for our ace and Kodai Senga. That then leads us to the bottom of the third, where Luis Angel Acuna would rip his 4th double of the season. Guys, I'm obsessed with the kid. All right, maybe I'm a little too obsessed. I just got to be honest with you. He has played so good since the start of the season, Acuna. This is a continuation of spring training as well for the most part, but even better, he's getting better every single game out there. This is exactly why, everybody, just purchased 2 tickets. Tim, that is absolutely fantastic, my man. Good app. I'm really, really happy to hear that you SeatGeek to purchase. Again, guys, thank you so much. I've had people go out of their way to text me saying, hey, Wardy, I'm using your code, or I'm going to use your code with SeatGeek, and it always means a lot, guys, because that is the exact kind of sponsor that we want here all year long. There is no better sponsors, in my opinion, to have than ones that can directly relate here with the consumer, that is you guys. And who isn't going to use SeatGeek throughout the course of the season? Seriously, there's nothing better when it comes to the grading scale versus other apps that I personally use. And I say this as someone, if I wasn't working with SeatGeek, would say the exact same thing, because I've been utilizing their app for years on end. So I really appreciate that. Thank you kindly for doing exactly that, guys. But Acuna has looked absolutely fantastic that we're seeing at second base. And knowing how well he's playing right now, he's going to continue to get out there. He's going to get center field reps, because in case you guys didn't notice, he was actually getting reps in the center field pregame yesterday before Beatty got the start at second base. So it's clearly telling that the Mets are not only comfortable with Acuna getting out there, but they want him out there, and they need him out there. And the most impressive part about Acuna's play to me personally is that after back-to-back games where Beatty started over him at second base, and then we saw him pinch run initially for Beatty's double 2 nights ago, then yesterday for Vientos' second hit of the game as Mark exited in the 8th. Fast forward to today, his first start in a number of days, and Acuna right away flashes the leather. Right away has himself great defensive plays. Right away has himself a double. Acuna continues to impress with his 4th double of the year that he ripped there to center. And that leads us then to 2 outs for Juan Soto, setting the stage for Juan Soto. 2 outs with runners in scoring position. And folks, Juan Soto finally steps up, baby. He rips a 2-out single that we see there, center right in the gap. That brings Acuna home. The Mets have themselves a 1-0 lead. And the one and only is is finally starting to show up. That's absolutely tremendous. We need more of that from Soto. Great sign, great step in the right direction. Then, folks, we would see the polar bear do more of the same, because imagine thinking that Pete Alonso won't be the best protection for Juan Soto outside of Aaron Judge. The guy's playing at an MVP caliber level right now throughout the first 3 weeks of the season, and we have to appreciate this for what it is, because we know that all good things come to an end, and I don't know when Pete's going to start to cool off, but I hope and pray it's no time soon, because Buddy's carrying us so hard right now. It's crazy. His 9th double of the season for Alonso. That makes it 2-0 Amazons just like that here throughout the first couple innings of the ball game. Mark Vientos would pop out there for the final out of the inning, which then leads us, everybody, to the top of the 4th. And the top of the 4th, Kodai Senga. What does he do? As a surprise, absolutely nobody. Uno, dos, tres. A nice 1-2-3 inning there in the 4th with a strikeout on Nolan Arenado with 2 outs. Then we would see Alec Burleson with a flyout to end the inning from there. In the bottom of the 4th, the Mets go down in order offensively as Marte, Nimmo, and Seren struck out. Fantastic job by Liberatore here, who strikes out the side. In doing so, great work by him, and which then leads us, everybody, to the top of the 5th. This is where Brett Baty comes in to replace Vientos, because the inning prior there for Kodai Senga on a line out is where Vientos made the great play that we saw there with the glove, but I think he unfortunately might have tweaked something in part because of that as he exited the game again with groin discomfort. He is officially day-to-day. Don't expect Vientos in the starting lineup tomorrow. I'm sure the Mets will put Baty at 3rd, Acuna at 2nd, because there is zero reason for them to rush Vientos when they have an early day game tomorrow. I don't see it happening unless he's completely fine and he's like saying, I need to be in the lineup because I'm Mark Vientos. And if that's the case, then I'll be like, okay, that's fine. But I don't expect it to happen. Fully expect Acuna at 2nd and Baty at 3rd for the series finale tomorrow, folks. Love the fact that the Mets won the first 3 of this series, too, because you know how difficult that has been, I feel like, in years past for this Mets team, regardless on who they play, regardless on if the competition is more superior than the other. A 4-game set usually means the Mets win one, then they win one, then they lose one, then they lose one, or they win one, then they lose one, then they win, or they lose, they win, they lose, they lose, they win, they win. A lot of times this usually leads to a 4-game series where you have a 2-2 split, but the fact that the Mets already eliminated the split factor, they just simply won every single game, some in more dramatic fashions than others. Cue Lindor's absolute nuke yesterday that I still can't get over. Man, it's just the beauty and curse about being a baseball fan. As much as we love baseball, sometimes we don't allow true big moments to marinate. And Lindor's home run yesterday made me hoping that tonight's game would be a night game at 7 or 8 and not a 4 o'clock game, just because I wanted a little bit more time to savor that greatness for what it is. That's the beauty about, say, like football, for example. When you have a whole week long or a bye week, so 2 weeks, you really let things marinate. It's either good if your team's performing well, or it's absolute hell when your team isn't performing well and, say, loses 2 or 3 weeks straight beyond that. But let's get out of the Wardy tangent. Let's get back into breaking down this ball game, folks, because we would see after Brett Baty comes in to replace Mark Vientos there in the 5th inning, Sagis gets on with his 3rd double and his 2nd there of the day. Kodai Senga's wild pitch allows him to get all the way to 3rd base, folks. And mind you, there is a runner at 3rd base with no outs. What happens? Here's what happens. Nolan Gorman strikes out Sweeney. Great job there on the ghost fork again by Kodai Senga. Then Pozo would reach on a fielder's choice because Brett the Hitman Baty makes a huge heads-up play, gets a throw there to home, and he's out. That does it, folks, which then leads Victor Scott II to fly out to do it for the top of the 5th. Kodai Senga works some Houdini magic. Brett Baty plays some great defense at the hot corner, and the Mets escape that jam unscathed heading to the bottom of the 5th, where sadly, they don't do anything offensively. Acuna, Ascar, Lindor go down in order, which then leads us to the top of the 6th. And then the top of the 6th, not only was Kodai Senga getting squeezed a little bit, but sadly, this is where everything reared its head for him in this outing. Again, not the end of the world, but this was Kodai's final inning, obviously. He allows a walk to Lars Nootbaar. Lars Nootbaar representing Team Japan for the WBC. A lot of people forget that, obviously, because you don't think of him as being Japanese right away with a name like Lars, but he is. And I've actually been a pretty solid fan of Lars since the WBC in particular. I think he's a really solid player, but thankfully he hasn't torched the Mets too much yet throughout the first 3 games of this series. Wilson Contreras then gets on with a single that we saw, and then Brendan Donovan would ground into a double play, which was a tremendous turn that we saw started by Luis Angel Acuna. Then Arenado gets absolutely drilled there right below his wrist. Thankfully, he was okay. I don't wish injury on anybody. And while Arenado has been a schmuck in the past when it comes to the hit-by-pitch debacle between the Mets and the Cardinals going back to 2022, I'm not going to hold grudges. When it happened, I felt bad, and thankfully, he's okay, and he did stay in the ball game. We would see Reed Garrett come in then, folks, as Kodai Senga would be done there after 5.2 innings. And as Reed Garrett comes in, he gets a nice soft ground out from Alec Burleson, played by Acuna, tossed to first to Alonso, and the Mets escape yet another jam in this ball game, which would do it, everybody, for Kodai Senga's final line. See it with me, folks. 5.2 innings, 89 pitches, 3 hits, 2 walks, 0 earned run, a 4 strikeout ball is now down to a .79 ERA on the season. To say Kodai Senga is back is an understatement, baby. He's all the way effing back. And what makes Kodai Senga work so well is not only how calm, cool, and composed he is on the mound, but how brilliant he is with his arsenal, headlined by the ghost fork and that four seam. Because mind you, he threw a solid 7 pitches today, folks. 7 different pitches. Kodai Senga's pulling Chris Bassett, pulling out the kitchen sink tonight in this one. We got the four seam fastball at 45%. We saw top it out 97, sitting 95. Velo was slightly up from his previous starts, which is great to see. The ghost fork that we saw utilized 29% of the time, topped out 86, sat right around 84. The cutter 9% of the time for Kodai tonight, topped it out 93, sitting right around 91. The sinker 6% of the arsenal, topped out 91, sat 90. The sweeper 5% of the arsenal, or 6% rather, I apologize, topped out 82, sat right around 80. The slider at 4% of the arsenal, topped out 86, sat right around 85. And the curveball that he threw just once was at 66.6 miles per hour. I mean, Kodai always has to throw one. Honestly, that might have been the one pitch that just completely was nowhere close to the strike zone. I'm not entirely sure. Kodai's kind of due for one of those each game, and my dad was laughing as he wailed that one pitch. Maybe was probably the wild pitch that we saw earlier in the ball game, but regardless, my dad was laughing because he was like, Kodai does that at least once every single start, yet it doesn't matter for the most part. He's 100% right. Guys, I gotta be honest, with an outing like this, even though Kodai didn't go 6 innings, he gets an easy 7 out of 10 for your guy Wardy here. This was another quality outing by Kodai, and what I love so much about Senga is the fact that you look at the final line and you see 4 strikeouts, but I'm sorry, I'm not the only one that thought he had at least like 6 or 7, right? Like, Senga works his pitches so well and gets a good amount of swing and miss, and that ghost fork is so deadly that you really think that he's striking out guys at a higher rate than what he's doing. But listen, if Kodai went 7 today, maybe he would have gone up to 5, 6, or maybe even 7, all things considered. I'll just say that Kodai has been impressive. He has gotten better pretty much every start for the most part, and thankfully, outside that first start against Miami where he had some meatballs right down the pipe, he was okay. You know, everything was fine for the most part. So that's a great sign for Kodai Senga to work around his early struggles that he had to begin this season with that four-seam fastball. His final line, that first game, wasn't horrendous at all. Got better his second start against Miami. His third start was brilliant that we saw over this past week. And now we got 5.2 scoreless innings here for Kodai Senga, who's down to a sub-1 ERA. And I want to hear from each and every one of you guys in the chat, as well as everyone watching this on replay in the comments down below. How would you grade Kodai Senga's final line today on a on a scale of 1 to 10? Like I said, I'm going with a nice, cool 7 out of 10. I think Kodai deserves that, and we're going to leave plenty of room there for guys that have better outings, full game shutouts, no-nos, one-hitters, stuff along those lines. Also, guys with big punchies and don't give up more than, say, 2 earned runs. Because David Pearson had 9 punchies this past day or so, but he also, his final line wasn't as impressive as it was made out to be. Still got hit for hard contact a decent amount yesterday. Actually, I don't think he walked anyone, but still, 9 strikeouts, which was strong from David Pearson. We got some 8s, we got some 9s, we got some 7s, we got some 7.5s, some 7.7s. We got some interesting grades here in the chat, everybody. Continue to spam them, and thank you guys so much for doing exactly that. Because as we get back into this one, let's continue to break down this ball game, because we're at the 6th inning. So in the bottom of the 6th, what happens? Juan Soto is what happens. Juan Soto rips his second base knock of the day. Identical hit to his first single of the day, this time with no runner on. He's the plate setter for Pete Alonso, who unfortunately would fly out. And you want to know what happens, folks, after the fly out? Juan Soto actually steals a bag. Soto steals his second bag of the year that we saw, put him in scoring position. Brett Beatty has some help on his side with the ump, but gets himself on with a walk for another game. That's huge. Anytime Beatty's getting walks, that's a big sign because he's actually seeing the ball well. Marte would fly out quickly after, and so would Nimmo. An unfortunate end there for the Mets that were trying to pounce more offensively. But as we get to the top of the 7th, here we go. Reed Garrett. What does Reed Garrett do? Has himself a nice and easy 1, 2, 3, 7th. He gets ground outs on Segis. He gets a ground out on Gorman, and a nice line out on Pozo to Alonso to end the inning. In the bottom of the 7th, with everybody. We would see the Mets try to get something going here. We would see Terrence and Acuna go out, and then Azekar with 2 outs would rip a single. His first hit as a New York Met, if I'm not mistaken, so congratulations to Jose Azekar. Love to see that. Lindor would ground out there not long after, which then leads us to the top of the 8th. And in the top of the 8th, everybody, AJ Minter. What a whirlwind of an inning for AJ Minter, guys. He gives up a leadoff walk to Lucan Baker, who comes in there as the pinch hitter for Victor Scott II. After that, we would see Lars ground out. So, okay, there's a runner in scoring position with 1 away. Wilson Contreras gets on with a walk. Brendan Donovan gets on via a fielder's choice because there's runners out the corners there. They got the force out. Arenado walks. So you're telling me it's bases loaded all via walk here. And what happens? Alec Burleson grounds out is what happens. AJ Minter works out of his little mess that he had. Gives the Mets still a clean inning of work there in the 8th, which sets everything up for Edwin Diaz there in the 9th. But before we got to the 9th, folks, the Mets would add insurance, and it would be all thanks to the polar bear yet again and Pete Alonso. Because what does Pete do, everybody? He does more of the same. After his huge double to drive in a run, folks, we would see the polar bear do the deed again, this time with a no-doubt homer to left. The polar bear, his 6th home run on the season, everybody, and that was a no-doubter second decky shot there by Pete. He, hilariously enough, had the exact same stats as the last time that I did this graphic a couple days ago. I kid you not. The last time I did an Alonso graphic 2 or 3 days ago was 2 for 4 with a home run and a double. The average was exactly the same, and the OPS is actually slightly higher. Pete Alonso continues to tear the cover off the ball. He continues to look like an MVP candidate, and he continues to carry this Mets team in ways that I don't think anyone truly thought was going to happen to begin the season. Not because of Pete Alonso's great production in postseason, but more so as to what the after effects would be after what was a lengthy offseason, a back and forth ugly negotiation that led Alonso to signing with just that 1-year guarantee with that 2nd-year option. But unless Pete completely falls off a cliff, it goes without saying that our buddy is going to have himself getting a big payday next offseason long term, and hopefully it's here by staying in Queens. Where he doesn't know how to wear a ball cap, tuck in your banes, for God's sake. John, no, we're actually not going to do that, John. And if it bothers you so much, don't watch. I mean, imagine being that insecure that you got to go out of your way to try to tell someone how to wear a hat. I mean, what are we, 10? You'll get through this, buddy, I promise. Pete Alonso, going back to him, everybody. What a great game for him at the plate. Another multi-hit game. And I got to ask everybody watching live as well as everybody watching on replay in the comments down below, on a scale of 1 to 10, how impressed are you with the polar bear? I feel like we're all at least a 12 right now, but maybe I should ask a follow-up question, which is the following. Do you guys think Pete Alonso can keep up the pace to being an MVP caliber player for the Mets throughout the course of the season? Or do you think he'll come down a bit, come back down to reality, but still be a very productive power hitter for the Mets? I would love to hear from you guys how you feel. The Yankees just blew it. You'll love to see that. I have no clue what was the context of the Yankees game, so I'm actually going to go on MLB.com real quick on my phone and see what exactly is happening, folks. Let me just double check real quick for a second what happened with the Yankees. Oh, they did blow it. They gave up a 4-piece to Tampa in the 8th. It's 8-8 ball game, bottom 9 with 1 on, no way here, as Mr. Devin Williams, I'm sorry, did Devin think Polar Bear was in that inning? We're getting ourselves some yips, not looking too good. Devin Williams gets rocked here for the Yankees, and I saw a schmuck Yankee fan saying the other day that Williams is far and away the best reliever in New York. I mean, buddy, it's okay to just not know baseball. Maybe next time at least keep it to yourself. It wouldn't hurt. But great job there by the Tampa Bay Rays to rally back there against the Yankees, trying to win that ball game there in the bottom of the 9th. But guys, Pete Alonso, more as advertised, more of the same. And if he can keep this up to actually have himself a big game, folks, then we're going to find ourselves in great position. John, you're ridiculous, John. Oh my goodness gracious. How those Suns doing, baby? I will say I do find it funny, though, that you followed up with that comment. That was pretty good. I'm not even mad at it. But, guys, we went from talking about the polar bear, so let's get on to the 9th inning, because this ball game didn't end yet. Because in the 9th inning, what happens? Edwin Diaz is what happens. Because Edwin, mind you, first battery's facing Segis. Right away, call down strikes, but it didn't start that way, because it started 3-0, and I literally put in my notes at that very moment, what is Edwin Diaz's deal with walking everyone to begin an outing? But the good news, at least in the case of this, is not only did Edwin rebound, but he got the punchy. Fantastic job with the slider, looked disgusting, then froze him with the fastball thereafter there, right around the knees or a little above. Fantastic job there by Edwin Diaz. And Edwin, guys, give credit where credit's due. He hasn't looked, again, unhittable to start the season, but he has been able to go out there and kind of get out of his early jams the way that he's been. And there is one thing to attribute Edwin Diaz kind of having a rough first at bat, and I think that really just has more to do with his in-game feel. I think it's abundantly clear by all the at-bats that we've seen with Edwin so far, with his approach there, with batters rather. When he first gets out there, you could tell that he's not uncomfortable, but he's still trying to figure out his approach. And naturally, that's why you see him again whale a fastball, whale a slider, and work, say, a 3 or 4-0 count. It isn't going to happen, hopefully, every time out there, but I think it's more so for him to kind of just get that feel to start for the game. Because if Edwin can consistently punch out guys 1, 2, 3, and we're out of here, great. But I think we're kind of having wishful thinking at the same time and hoping that every time out there. As long as Edwin isn't single-handedly costing the Mets games, as long as he's not constantly blowing saves, I can live with things being a little bit hard on the heart as long as the Mets are winning at the end of the day. Because after Thomas would strike out, so would Nolan Gorman. Gorman did not have a good day at the plate at all. Mets took advantage. And then Pozo would ground out there to Lindor, to Alonso, and that does it for the ball game, folks. Mets go on to win this one comfortably by a final score of 3-0. And I have more players I want to break down with each and every one of you. Guys, let's see here. I need to rewind the watch the post-game jingle shuffle since I'm late to the party. You guys are in luck. If you guys missed the post-game jingle, all you got to do is remind your guy Wardy before we conclude the live show, and I'll do the jingle one more time for each and every one of you, just because I'm that nice of a guy. But all jokes aside, I will in fact do that. Just remind me, guys, and we'll make it happen. But guys, fantastic turnout by the Mets today. When, mind you, offensively with runners in scoring position, they're still heading, and pardon my French, everybody, shit. And this is exactly why. 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position, left on base, 6 for left on base total, I should say, 1 for 7 with runners on. So not ideal for the Mets as they continue to flounder consistently with runners in scoring position, but between Alonso's MVP performance, between Lindor doing his part more often than not, between Soto finally starting to contribute a bit more on the consistent front, again, Soto's looked good back-to-back games that he's contributing to leading in and driving in runs. We need to see more of that. And then the depth of the order has been sporadic to start the season, we know, but the Mets have a lot of individual player performances that have been standing out, including a lot with the young guns in Beatty and Acuna, and recently in Mark Vientos leading up to his departure with today's groin discomfort injury that he's day-to-day on. So nothing overly concerning there, folks. And you guys know that I've been gassing him up so much, but I got to talk about him just a bit more. No, it's not the polar bear. I love Pete. Love him to death, but we're not here to just talk about Alonso. Guys, say it with me. Let's talk about Mr. Luis Angel Acuna, because anytime that Luis Angel Acuna plays well, we're at the point where I pretty much need to talk about him every single time, because it's one thing to go out and make this team out of spring training with the injuries to Jeff McNeil, the injuries in Nick Madrigal, and kind of playing your way into that role. It's another to take advantage of your opportunities every single time out there. And that's what Acuna's doing. Look at this great flip. That's all started by him for that key double play. And then he ripped that double that we see there that he pulled to center right. Just, I cannot get over this kid right now, folks. He's now up to 268 on the average, 714 OPS. He's stealing bags every time out there. He just has to make sure he doesn't overslide on Arenado next time. Seriously, like, he's playing so well right now that the idea that Acuna could be a key piece to this team throughout the course of the season is more and more abundantly clear. And I want to give a massive shout out to one person in particular. And happy Easter, everybody, to all that celebrate. Yes, happy early Easter to each and every one of you that I'm seeing in the chat right now. LFGM, baby. The most important thing to me when I evaluate Acuna is that this is exactly validating what David Stearns did this past offseason. As someone who wanted Jose Iglesias back just as much as the next guy, as someone who was seriously upset that we didn't even bother to bring him back for the most part after Nick Madrigal went down with injury, I, like many of you, was disheartened to a degree on giving the kids keys, just knowing there's uncertainty. Like, I understood it, but I didn't love it. I thought that we had unfinished business with Jose Iglesias last year. Jose thought the exact same thing, which is why he waited so long to ultimately sign with the Padres, still on a minor league contract when everything was said and done. And he's been really good for San Diego this year. He's hitting for high contact. The slugging isn't as much, but that's also to be expected. He's going to be more as advertised, and I love Jose Iglesias. He will always have a special place in my heart. But you know what? If you're going to give the kids the keys, if you're going to give them a true opportunity to see them thrive, the Mets did it the best way possible. They've had Beatty and Acuna in the lineup pretty much every single day. One of the two, if not both of the two. I actually love the fact that we saw Mendoza bench Vientos a couple of those games by either having him at DH or on the bench there for Beatty at the hot corner, just to get these more reps in for these guys to see if they're going to stay major league ready when McNeil gets back from his injury in the coming days. They're both playing themselves so well into a position right now that the Mets are at a point where when McNeil returns, I think there's a greater likelihood of Jose Asgar being the corresponding move potentially than them even sending or considering sending down one of Jose Asgar, not Jose Asgar, Brett Beatty or Luis Angel Acuna. Acuna, you can't justify. He has to stay on this roster. If the Mets send down Acuna, I will be pissed. I will have a live show fuming at my guy Mendy, asking what the hell are we doing here. In the case of Beatty, I wouldn't be pissed. I would understand it more, but I would also feel bad because it feels like Beatty's finally starting to find his stroke with his swing, and defensively, he's been far from a liability outside that game against the Miami Marlins around 10 days ago or so. So, in the case of Luis Angel Acuna, not only him, but Brett Beatty, I want to give a further shout out to David Stearns for proving a lot of fans wrong, including myself, for trusting what we have in-house to see what will work and then to run from there. I think the Mets played this very smartly, and not only that, the same thing goes with their pitching staff. Everyone gave the Mets hell with their pitching staff entering the season, but little did we know, little did we think that the Mets would have a pitching staff, everybody. Listen to the following numbers. This was entering today's game, mind you. They're now down to a 2.27 team ERA. That is best in the majors. Going back to the Kodai Senga slide just for a second, everybody, so I want to relay these pitching numbers and kind of have them in unison with each other. Also, guys, make sure to follow me at the WardyNYM on X for our big account with almost 70,000 followers. We're posting a lot of stuff there every single day, key stats, a bunch of other things that I eventually then break down in video format for each and every one of you on a daily basis. But what we see, guys, is as follows. Entering today's game, the Mets had a 2.39 team ERA. It's now down to 2.27. Their starters were at a 2.61. That's now down as well, both of which still first in Major League Baseball. The bullpen entered today's game with a 2.10 ERA. That's dropped to right around 2, if not just below 2 now, after the scoreless outings by Reed Garrett, Edwin Diaz, and AJ Minter. And strikeouts. Entering today's game, the Mets were 4th in Major League Baseball with 194 strikeouts. After today's game, where the Mets totaled how many strikeouts? Let's see how they did. A total of 6. So the Mets are already at 200 Ks for the team in total this season, still top 5 in Major League Baseball. Everyone thought that the Mets pitching staff would be their big liability heading into the season, with both Frankie Montas and Sean Manaea going down with injury. And for a second consecutive season, for the most part, David Stearns has proved every fan and their mother wrong, and actually, who knows baseball and who doesn't. But he understands the analytics, but he understands the feel, and he's really putting a good amount of faith in Jeremy Hefner and Desi Druskull. Cannot understate the Desi Druskull hire this past offseason by the Mets, guys. That's why I gassed it up when a lot of people gave me shit saying, Wardy, why do you care about an assistant pitching coach hire? He won't move the needle. Buddy, how about you pay attention? It's clear as day it matters. Clear as day. Desi goes from the Yankees, goes all the way to the World Series as their assistant pitching coach last year, prioritizing pitch shape and working on arsenals and fine-tuning arsenals of pitchers. He makes a lateral move, not because the Yankees kicked him out of town, but because he chose to leave the Yankees after a World Series run to join Jeremy Hefner and the Mets pitching staff to be in the same exact role. If that isn't a prime example of the culture change in Queens with what the Mets are building, I don't know what is, because you not only pair Desi with Jeremy Hefner, and you have to give credit where credit's due with Hefner, even though I get frustrated sometimes with Hefner maybe not going out there in time to kind of calm down a pitcher until he's after rattled. Hefner has done a brilliant job with his staff, and as someone who slandered him in the first half of last season, I too sincerely apologize, and I have no problems eating my words, because at the end of the day, I just want to see this Mets team succeed. I'm not one of these guys that's rooting for guys to fail. If you're here, if you're on the coaching staff, or if you're playing on the roster, I want you to perform. And by all counts, it's what the Mets have been getting from their lab. It's what they're getting from their rotation. It's what they're getting from their bullpen. And as a Mets fan, I am a damn happy camper right now to say that the boys are, what, 14-7 now on the season at least? A double above 500. Not complaining about that whatsoever. And as we further expand here, just for a second, everybody, on the pitching, then we're going to go back to a bit more on the offense, then we're going to wrap up the show on the minor league front, and then we'll do that, everybody. So if you guys have any key comments, questions you guys got for me in the chat, relay them now. Thank you again kindly for them. I will try to get to as many as I can before the show ends. And to all of our replay viewers, continue to let us know your thoughts down below. Hit that like and subscribe button to help us get to 200 plus likes here in the live show. Be great if we could get a 300 plus by the end of the live show, but if we can't, no worries. I appreciate everyone's support, nonetheless. You guys are absolute beauties. JR, you're a beauty too. Lordy's a beauty in the chat. Thomas, how you doing? JTB, Kid Jersey, JJ from State Farm. We got Snags in here. We got Mr. Chiffer, how you doing? We got everybody and your mother in here. We'd love to see it. So, getting back to the pitching here just for a second, folks. We broke down Kodai. Let's talk about Reed Garrett. Reed had the sink piece, the cutty, the splitty, and the sweeper all working today. Sinky, that we saw topping out 97, sitting 96 through 45% of the time. 27% of the arsenal was the cutter. He threw just 3 times. Topped out 93, sat 92. Splitter, 18% of the time. He threw twice. Topped out 88, sat 88. Sweeper, he threw once, was at 85. AJ Mentor, who was walking everyone their mother, everybody. Let's see. You can get both games. Let's see. For future reference, Mets are on Apple TV 2 times in May, so you can sign up for them. Oh, you can do that, John. And 100% you can do that. That is a good point on the Apple TV front. Cutter, guys, that we see. And for those Apple TV games, we are going to try to prioritize doing some watch parties for those games in particular. Hopefully at least one of them, because I know that you guys don't all have Apple TV, and you're not going to go out of the way to get it. And I want to try to help each and every one of you share my own play-by-play. It's not going to be great. It's not going to be GKR. It's a Walmart version. But listen, and I want to give a huge shout out to what Steve Gelbs did on the call yesterday. He's getting so much better. Steve really inspired me to really be more of the way I want to be when I do play-by-play. So we'll try to do that next time we do it for a Apple TV game in particular. But AJ Minter with the cutter, 48% of the time, topping out 91, sitting at 89, 90. Four-seam topping out 95, sitting 94, 43%. 10% with the changeup, topping at 87, sitting right around 87. Tingus, thank you so much for the donation. Tingus says, re-sign Pete Alonso long-term, extend this man now. I understand it's not going to happen. He's going to hit the free agent market. The Mets will look to get him then. Update on Danilo Nunez. Yeah, we got an update. Nunez pitched himself a squirrel's inning or so for the Mets 48 hours ago, if not 72 hours ago in Syracuse, and everything is in line for Nunez to return whenever the Mets want to call him up, basically. The great news, the Mets haven't needed to force their hand to call him up ahead of time because of how well their bullpen has performed to this point. So basically, when they feel the need to bring up Nunez, they will bring up Nunez. They just haven't rushed it. And I'd imagine when they do bring up Nunez, that the corresponding move will probably be Jose Budo or someone that maybe just eight innings that they feel that they won't need for a decent period of time. Edwin with the four-seam and the slider, everybody. Let's take a look at this. 53% of the arsenal here we're seeing with the four-seam. Topping out 97, sat 96 today. The slider, 47%, topped out 90, sat right around 88. So velo was slightly down with Edwin today. Not an issue. No worries whatsoever. Now, folks, let me give you the final conversation I want to have in particular about this game today before we get into the minor league report and answer some of your comments before wrapping this one up. Because we broke down Luis Angel Acuna, as we always do. And the same way we broke down Luis Angel Acuna is the way that we got to break down another player that anytime he does anything of significance, folks, with the exception of yesterday, because our stream was lagging so bad, and that was just because we had like north of 1,000 concurrent people in the chat, so literally couldn't handle it for a minute. The walk-off literally was so big that Lindor's home run hit my router all the way in Pennsylvania. That's why that stream yesterday was a shit show, but still was electric. I had a lot of fun, but I watched it on a replay, and I completely understand why a lot of you guys were like, what is going on here? It was not ideal, and I apologize for that. But thankfully, not having the lag issues nearly as bad today, and we're going to break down now Mr. Juan Soto and his latest outing in this one. People blast one off. Williams in the Subway Series. I hope you're right, baby. Oh, my God. Could you imagine if the Subway Series, especially when the Mets are in Yankee Stadium, because I think the Mets are in Yankee Stadium first in May, and then they're home for 4th of July series at Citi Field, which I'm going to try to attend if that's the case. I can't wait. But Dave, thank you for the donation. I really hope that happens because Devin Williams looked like cheeks today. Not complaining about that. Juan Soto, everybody, here's his day. 2 for 4 with an RBI. Now up to a 240 average and 787 OPS. And I understand when you see those numbers, you probably cringe a little bit. You're saying, I'm sorry, are we really investing $765 million, $100 million this season alone based on 51 mil AAV and a $50 million bonus for the most part? And a guy that can't even bat 250? I understand the initial reactions, but I'm here to tell you Juan Soto is getting more and more comfortable. This is a step in the right direction. One thing that I want to see definitely more of Juan is him to spread for all fields. He pulls a ball like a mofo, and I know he's accustomed to that, but man, oh man, I'm already tired of the ground outs to right, and we know that's going to be the story a lot this year. Like those hits, again, were all pulled to the right side, but he just made sure to hit them where they ain't. That was the key difference. But Soto, who's had some unfortunate luck the past number of days, as well as not some great at-bats too, has now an RBI in back-to-back games for the Mets. And if we look at his past, what is, I want to say, 10 games or so, or it's like 8 games, I believe. When we go back to the start of the Twins series, he had home runs in back-to-back games there. had his worst game by far as a Met in the series finale where we lost in extras. Then as we got onto the Cardinals series, didn't do anything in game 1. Got on with a walk, but that was that. Then had an RBI hit yesterday, now had an RBI today, and got himself on base not once but twice. So now the next step for Soto is to give us a home run tomorrow. That's what we want, right? I want a home run or an RBI double at minimum from Juan in this series finale tomorrow. The Mets are going to have more than enough rest because, again, this was a midday game today, so I don't want to hear the excuses of, oh, you go from a night to a day game. The bats just didn't wake up. Even if that is the case tomorrow, I'm not giving them that excuse because I'm sorry. You're paid millions, and the game ended today at a reasonable time. I know tomorrow's a holiday, so everyone's worried about enjoying it with their family, celebrating Easter. That makes sense too. But okay, if you're worried about celebrating especially, let's speed up the game. Let's make it a quick game. Let's get a quick dub, and that be that. I want to see Juan Soto tear the cover off the ball tomorrow. But nice steps in the right direction for Soto, everybody, which is what I have asking each and every one of you the following. On a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling about Juan Soto as a Met right now with his production when it comes to either being underwhelmed or just, as expected, knowing that he's going to get better? Where are you, I guess, in your confidence level with Juan Soto so far this season? That's, I think, a better question for you guys to answer. Let's see. 10 years from now, it's going to be Gary, Cohen, Keith, Ron, and Wardy. 10 years from now, I highly doubt that. It's kind of crazy to think of the GKR booth without GKR in it, and I don't want to think about that. My play-by-play man for my entire life for hockey, Sam Rosen, just retired, so I've been an emotional wreck enough on that front. We don't got to talk about that. Let's see here. An Easter home run for the series finale would be fantastic. I agree. You think Ascar gets sent down? I agree with you, John. That's something we can agree about. If we push the hat nonsense aside, you're having solid takes there. You and I are in line with that one, everybody. So before we get out of here, everybody, let me leave you with this. Let me leave you with a prospect report that we usually do in our Big Mets updates videos, but I got no reason to do one in the AM. We got an early game tomorrow. We got Easter tomorrow, and yeah, there's really nothing too much I need to expand on that I didn't expand plenty in this one. So first of all, everybody, fun little fact that I'm seeing right away. The Buffalo Bisons beat the Mets today, 5-1 against the Syracuse Mets. Ali Sanchez had his second home run of the year. Do you guys remember Ali Sanchez? Ali Sanchez used to be in the Mets organization. Had a big game here. I remember him like it was yesterday. When was Ali? Hold on. There's no way. I know for a fact he was in the Mets organization. That name's way too familiar. He's 28 years of age. I think that's the same catching. You guys, let me know in the chat. Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't Ali Sanchez in the Mets organization back in the day? Almost positive on that. Well, the Mets lost this game 5-1. Syracuse Mets, that is. And offensively, Nico Goodrum had himself a 1-for-2 day with a walk. Luke Ritter had himself his second double of the year. Joey Meneses won 1-for-3 with a run scored. He's batting .313 with a just under 900 OPS. Davin Walton had a nice day at the plate today. 2-for-4 with a .233 average, 641 OPS. And that's about it offensively for them outside of Ritter's hit. Pitching-wise, we saw Waddle look really good there. Waddle or Waddell, however you pronounce it. He went 6 innings of 6 hit, 2 run, 1 earned run, 0 walk, 5 strikeout baseball, and he's off to a tremendous start this year for Syracuse. Brandon Waddell, who the Mets signed this past offseason, a guy to keep an eye out for, as he very well could be the next innings eater, not named Justin Hageman or Jose Urena that they consider there in the minor leagues. Great start for the 6'3", 180-pounder there that we saw in Syracuse. We also saw Danilo Nunez. You guys asked about Danilo Nunez. We actually have an update on him. I didn't see that he pitched today. He did, and sadly, he did give up a run, give up 3 hits, 0 walks, 2 strikeouts, a 5-year race so far in Syracuse. Not that it's overly concerning, but something to make note of. So to go from Syracuse, let's get on to the Rumble Ponies, because the Rumble Ponies won today. Shout out to my guy Jacob, my editor, who was at the game today. You got to see a nice one. And this one, Nick Morabito hit his first home run of the year, batting third in left field. Love Morabito. We saw our guy Ryan Clifford finally hit his first tank of the year there for the Rumble Ponies. Clifford, who is very Kyle Schwarber-esque. He's going to hit right around the Mendoza line, but give you an OPS, north of 800 to 900 when he's really right. But what we got from Clifford was a multi-hit game, a couple RBIs. Morabito looked good too. Francisco Alvarez had himself a nice day at the plate and with the bat today. Love to see that. Alvarez went 2 for 5 this time with a run scored and a couple strikeouts. Great work by him. And Jeff McNeil, who got the start at second base today, everybody. Moving up to play here in his latest rehab stint because of inclement weather. That's why he wasn't with Syracuse right away. Same thing with Alvarez. Make sure he's getting catching ability. But McNeil led off this ball game and went 2 for 5 with 2 runs scored and an RBI. So fantastic job as McNeil got his lone RBI, everybody, via home run. Great little stat there. Didn't realize it till now. So Jeff McNeil had that power stroke working with a torpedo bat. Keep an eye out for that. Batting a nice 400 of 1,400 OPS in his first game of the year there with the Rumble Ponies. Probably one of his last for sure. Him and Alvarez is going to be back as soon as that series against the Phillies or so. It ain't going to be long. They're both pretty much ready. Ryan Clifford looked good, as we mentioned. Great stuff there by the offense of the Rumble Ponies in this matchup. And Nolan McLean, oh my goodness. Oh my God, Nolan McLean. He looks so good. Man. If the Mets didn't have the early game tomorrow, I would probably make a separate video on this because Nolan McLean, guys, did the thing again. Holy shit. 6 innings, 2 hits, no earned runs, 4 walks, 8 punchies. Buddy is down to a .6 ERA on the season, guys. Nolan McLean is looking dominant, and it's not going to be long before he gets moved up to Syracuse, and it may not be long before he's up at the bigs with the Mets. So great stuff to hear on not only the McNeil front, on the Alvarez front, but in my opinion, the most notable here is Nolan McLean because he's been looking nasty. Dave with the $2. That sweeper is one of the best in the organization. Soto will resurrect on Sunday. Love the wordplay. Thank you for that, Dave. I appreciate that. But great work there by the boys. We saw Suarez there who came in relief. Is this my guy? No, it's Daniel Suarez. Daniel Suarez looked good, though. Did not allow a hit. And we saw Moreno come in for a scoreless inning, too. Great job there by the Rumble Ponies and their 6-1 victory over the Fightins. Now, for the Brooklyn Cyclones, we're at the top of the third currently, and offensively, Boston Burrow ripped his second double of the year, and he's the only notable offensively outside of Eli Serrano, who has cooled off a bit offensively, still batting now with an 829 OPS, but a 237 average. Great defender as well in the outfield, but he's getting the DH start today, and he went 1 for 1 with an RBI knock, so we'll take that. Pitching-wise, Paul Blackburn. Totally forgot Paul Blackburn at his rehab day. Just completely blew over my head. I knew about this a day plus ago, too, and I just completely forgot. I think because it's easy to forget about Blackburn. Nothing personal against Paul. It just happens. But Paul Blackburn has allowed 1 earned run so far in 2 innings and 2 walks there for the Brooklyn Cyclones in his first rehab start of the year. We'll see how long Blackburn stays out there in the matchup between the two. Now, folks, as we get on to the final game on the top of the 6th, the St. Lucie Mets are currently up 2-1. And what we see offensively from the St. Lucie Mets is, let's see, Ewing looking great again, 2 for 2 at second base with a .426 average, over 1,000 OPS. Can we just call Buddy up to Brooklyn already? Like, how long are we going to wait here? Pitching-wise, Watson has been through 5 innings of 1 earned run, 0 walk, 4 strikeout ball with a .69 ERA so far. Will Watson, who's looked tremendous, 7th-round pick by the Mets last year. He's been looking really good to begin the season for the Mets, as has been the case with Jack Weniger, as has been the case with Nolan McLean, as has been the case in Thornton that we broke down yesterday, the Southpaw. The Mets have a big wave of young, exciting pitching prospects that we otherwise didn't talk about a lot last season that are really starting to blossom early in the minor leagues, which is huge to see. RZ, how you doing? Happy to have you in the chat, baby. Again, guys, thank you all for the likes and the subscriptions. I really appreciate that. That was a lot of fun breaking down not only the Mets game, but everything else that's happening in the Mets land. So we will have further updates for each and every one of you on more on the Paul Blackburn front, as well as McNeil, Alvarez, and all that stuff once we break it down post-game tomorrow, hopefully after a series sweep against these Cardinals. Guys and gals, thank you all so much for watching. Vientos is okay, Alberto. He just had a little bit of a groin cramp, a little bit of groin discomfort. He's day-to-day per Mendoza, and the Mets now look for a series sweep to continue what has been nothing short of a dominant start at home this season. The Mets, guys, let's actually do the math right now. The Mets against the Blue Jays, they swept the Blue Jays, right? I don't think the Mets lost a game against the Blue Jays. They won 2 out of 3 against the Marlins, and now they've won against St. Louis. So let's do the math. We got 6, 7, 8. The Mets are 8-1 at Citi Field so far this season. If my math is mathing correct, if it's not mathing correct, that's just because I'm an idiot. I'm not a mathematician. I'm just here to talk about the Mets. But with that being said, folks, thank you again. I greatly appreciate it. I'm going to go watch that Knicks game now and see how they do in the second half. Hope you all have a great rest of your night, day, evening. A very happy Easter to every one of you. And I'll see you all again tomorrow for our latest post.